if you have this irrigation dams, the boys won't go back there again. They remain here because every time you have a job to do.
Develop the needed skills and the needed competencies that would enable us to take advantage of the opportunities for job creation, and also retrain people so that we minimize the job losses that the introduction of these technologies would actually bring.
I will suggest to government to help especially women into agriculture, because if government can do something about the farm, look at the total operation, it's so high. If government can do something to help women in agriculture, I think it will help us a lot. If you look at this part of the country, we have very vast land, seemingly litigation-free lands that can be used for agriculture. The disadvantage is that we are located at a section of the country where we have one rain season in a year. So if government should focus in agriculture in this part of this country, we will be able to take advantage of what we've been blessed with, and that is the land. Government can vote money to support solar-powered irrigation systems in farming. Government can support initiatives that will help reduce post-harvest losses. The second area that I think government should focus more is vote resources to spearhead or stimulate collaboration amongst us. So if they want to wait for government to come in, it may be too late. So community members need to take up the initiatives, take up the risk, and then government comes in to facilitate the cross, Here we are farming only once. If you just farm only once, that's the end, unless another something. That's why we see our boys going to Galamsey.
Because of the high cost of farm inputs, they are unable to take very good care of their fields, and thereby not getting the needed products or the needed yields that they think they can get. So most of these farmers actually run at losses.
Nowadays, the agri-tool is a problem for we women. You get the land, you suffer to get the land, but when you get the land, how to farm is a problem. To plow 1 acre is 250. So when you take, it's better for you to buy the foodstuffs than farming, because 1 acre, 250. And when you farm, you have to get people to come and help you to clean the farm before you can sow. And after that, you hire labor to help you to work in the farm. And actually, it's causing a lot of problems for we women. So I'm begging government to bring irrigation.
Their competencies that would enable us to take advantage of the opportunities for job creation, and also retrain people so that we minimize the job losses that the introduction of these technologies would actually bring.
I will suggest to government to help especially women into agriculture, because if government can do something about the farm, look at the total operation, it's so high. If government can do something to help women in agriculture, I think it will help us a lot. If you look at agriculture, the disadvantage is that we are located at a section of agriculture in this part of this country. We will be able to take advantage of what we've been blessed with, and that is the land. Government can vote money to support solar-powered irrigation, head or stimulate collaboration among communities within this part of the country. And let's remember, the impacts of climate change are negatively impacting on the community members themselves. So if they want to wait for government to come in, it may be too late. So community members need to take up the initiatives, take up the risk, and then government comes in to facilitate the cross, sharing of ideas. Begging government to bring irrigation, so that if you have this irrigation dams, the boys won't go back there again. They will remain here.
Job creation, and also retrain people so that we minimize.
Because if a government can do something about the farm, look at the total operation, it's so high. If government can do something to help women in agriculture,
we are located at a section of the country where we have one rain season in a year. So if government should focus in agriculture in this part of this country, we will be able to take advantage of what we've been blessed with, and that is the land. Government can vote money to support solar-powered irrigation systems in farming. Government can support initiatives that will help reduce post-harvest losses. The second area that I think government should focus more is vote resources to spearhead or stimulate collaboration among communities within this part of the country. And let's remember, the impacts of climate change are negatively impacting on the community members themselves. So if they want to wait for government to come in, it may be too late. So community members need to take up the initiatives, take up the risk, and then governments can.
That's the end, unless another year again. After this work, no more work again. And you are sitting in the home, you are not doing anything. So you have to rush for something. That's why you see our boys going to Galamsey.
Because of the high cost of farm inputs, they are unable to take very good care of their fields and thereby not getting the needed products or the needed yields that they think they can get. So most of these farmers actually run at losses.
Nowadays, the agri-2 is a problem for we women. You get the land, you suffer to get the land, but when you get the land, how to farm is a problem. To plow 1 acre is 250. So when you take, it's better for you to buy the foodstuffs than farming. Because 1 acre, 250. And when you farm, you have to get people to come and help you to clean the farm before you can sow. And after that, you hire labor to help you to work in the farm. And actually, it's causing a lot of problems for we women. So I'm begging government to bring irrigation so that if you have this irrigation dams, you know, the boys won't go back there again. They will remain here because every time you have a job to do.
Develop the needed skills and the needed competencies that would enable us to take advantage of the opportunities for job creation, and also retrain people so that we minimize the job losses that the introduction of these technologies would actually bring.
I will suggest to government to help especially women into agriculture. Because if a government can do something about the farm, look at the total operation.
welcome, and I look forward to thank you. The next one is the one watching the speaker. The testing of please, let's welcome her with a round of applause. She's the Managing Director of APES Ghana. Thank you. Thank you. This one? Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Oh, I don't like your tone. You've had breakfast, right? Good morning. All protocols observed. I'm happy to be here. It is an honor to stand before you today as the keynote speaker for the third Sustainable Development Conference. With the adoption of the SDGs worldwide by all UN member states in 2015, today's conference represents a step in the right direction to promote. This is juxtaposed by the linear economy concept, which has long been the practice where the model is extracting raw materials from nature, turning them into products, and then discarding them as waste. Clearly, there is the need to transition to circularity because the linear model has been tried over time and it has proven to be not sustainable. My aim here today is to advocate for a circular economy transition for accelerated green jobs, water access, municipal waste concerns, and climate change mitigation. It's a tall order. I will now discuss each of these aspects separately, but we'll find the ultimate cohesive factors at the end of each discussion. The first is the accelerated green job opportunities created from a circular economy. I believe the need for these benefits considering the state of our environment and climate today. To demonstrate a good example of a company that is applying the concept of circular economy in its business model, I wish to cite the Jospon Group of companies. The different aspects the Jospon Group of companies has as part of its business model designed and invested in different aspects of the circular economic concept in providing job opportunities. It is thus one of the most diversified number of companies in Ghana with a focus on its mission of improving lives. And it currently has 7,250 employees, 5,750 of whom are in the environment and sanitation subgroup, with Zoom Lion Ghana Limited being the largest employer within this category. I am sure we can testify to the strides Zoom Lion is making to minimize pollution in our country. I will share more on how Jospon Group of companies is infusing the concept of circular economy into its business model via different subsidiaries and their focus in a bit. Let us now consider water access. As the adage goes, water is life. Sadly, potable water, that is safe treated drinking water, is not universally accessible. UNICEF reports that in Ghana, first, one person out of every soil, one of subsidiaries, that's through their marine cleaning efforts. Or dredge masters with the dredging of lagoons and lakes. A circular economy mindset services. Additionally, we will treat wastewater either for reuse or safe discharge. The core mandate of SSGL, that's Sewage Systems Ghana Limited, another of the Jospon group of company subsidiaries, which also seeks to convert fecal waste to other products such as water for gardening that have one thing in common: the huge capital outlay. The huge capital outlay. Speaking of liquid waste naturally leads to a discussion of municipal waste in its entirety. Solid waste, the other key component of our municipal waste, is often the sole focus of discussions on waste management because it is more visible when improperly managed. I hope the fact that it involves human excreta is not another factor. On Trash Talk, an advocacy program I host, we discuss all forms of waste and many other environmental issues. So I would entreat you all to watch the first season on YouTube. The second season is about starting and is focused on circular economy and the wonderful initiatives that a lot of people, young entrepreneurs and others, who are getting their hands mixed in the circular economy in practical ways. We've already started going to a few of the facilities, and you'll be amazed at some of the things that people are doing. Well, I seem to have digressed a little, but I'm going back on track. A study conducted in 2016 by a staff of AFES, Dr. Amieza, found that 60% of Ghana's municipal solid waste is organic. This is good news because organic waste is compostable, which could serve to nourish the soil, especially when the organics are separated from other waste fragments. With changes in our consumption patterns, our waste characterization research is due for an update, which would have a much easier task had our municipal waste been segregated. Unfortunately, waste separation is far from the norm in Ghana, driving the Jospon group of companies to invest in integrated recycling and composting plants called IRECOPs across the country. Currently, we are launching a few. These plants mechanically sort waste to extract fragments such as paper, ferrous metals, non-ferrous metals, plastics of all kinds, and organics, which they convert to compost on site. Some of the plastics separate at research is considered seriously in the discussion of circular economy by this private business. Over a year ago, the Just One group of companies established a research fund of 5 million Ghana cedis annually for academic institutions aimed at supporting the green space. Public sector academic institutions were called to apply. This initiative was anchored by the African Environmental Sanitation Consult, the organization I manage. Waste segregation was one of the themes that featured in the research themes. And in the coming call, we would also feature it prominently because it seems to be one of the key focal points where circular economy can make some impact. The reason behind the advocacy for waste segregation is that when waste products are separated, they are easier to direct to the next players in the value chain for reuse or recycling. Extracting useful components of municipal waste means that a smaller volume of waste would make it to the landfill, thus prolonging lifespan of our landfills. Further, better waste management can help increase food and flood resilience, which to prevent disasters like the June 3rd one that happened in Accra. Our choked storm drains from plastic waste indiscriminately thrown across the capital city was one glaring cause of the disaster, a repeat of which seems not impossible. However, we face more proximal effects of improper waste management on a daily basis. These include communicable diseases, especially vector-borne ones, such as malaria, because pests and vectors thrive in mismanaged waste. We have discussed green jobs, improved water access, and addressing municipal waste concerns, which all work together towards climate change mitigation. While climate change is a phrase familiar to all of us, the concept can be difficult to explain. A definition provided by the United Nations is that climate change, as and I quote here, long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. While acknowledging that there are natural factors that contribute to this, the UN explains that since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuel, coal, oil and gas, which produce greenhouse gases. While research continues to be a pillar in fueling green initiatives because it allows us to, they could reap the benefits of such together since the benefits of circular economy are intended for all. In conclusion, we have established the benefits of the circular economy transition in accelerating green job opportunities, improving water access, addressing municipal waste concerns, and mitigating climate change. As we see, circular economy strategies could slow down nature's degradation by reducing the demand for virgin materials, decreasing pressure on natural ecosystems to provide adaptation benefits, and reducing the rate of disposal of natural resources. But I cannot afford to conclude without mentioning the roles we must all play in fully transitioning from the linear to a circular economy. Where does policy, which is the forte of government, feature in all of these? Where are the incentives for research institutions to undertake circularity-focused projects? Where are they? What motivation has the private sector got to generate more green jobs? How will households partake in this circular economy movement if basic themes such as climate change and waste segregation are very difficult to understand? My final call to action is this. We must all do our part to reuse single-use items, reduce and recycle waste, reuse or repurpose.
Spoken about how we can minimize waste, creating green jobs, water access, and its implications for health, economy, tourism, waste management. But in all this, they come together to contribute to climate change, which is on the agenda of each and every one, especially when you mention issues about sustainable development. Now, one of the key things that she mentioned has to do with partnership. I'm sure that is the reason why we are all here. So this is the time for us to, discuss the key issues that have been raised, contribute, and see the way forward. Because in takeaway,
is going to open the avenues for both the educated and the uneducated, because then everybody will have a role to play, which includes some food on their table at the close of the day. So I think that is the first one. The second one on the partnerships is key, because no one institution can do it alone. And so it's very important that we partner each other. And as a university, we have been talking about the academia industry collaboration, which we hold very high, to ensure that whatever we have as a university, we share with industry, so that together can do whatever we want to do. And this is a sterling example of one where the partner in the EPCC of the public program.
okay.
In my house, living in this as an example, I stay around Hampshire in Accra. If there is any waste collector that is able to separate my organic from inorganic, let me go. There's none like that. They come and even the boxes you separated, they will just come and put everything together and throw your bin away. And they will tell you that if you did that new thing, you have to pay for that. Okay? Which is a problem. Okay, the workers themselves are also involved. But how can you talk that assessments? I'm not saying I do yet, because I am totally upset with the I would like to never say issue of or the concept of circular economy here, especially when it came to the national agenda. The United Nations are coming out with the framework. There's something that is still very unclear. In our attempt to fight for or achieve sustainable development,
The satisfaction before we come to the policy itself. So there is a relationship between behavioral, social indicators, and policy. If we don't marry the two and we focus on policy, there's green, circular, everywhere green. At the end of the day, it's going to be a dream sticker like all the other environmental interventions. I don't want to take you far. In 2000 to 2015, when we had Millennium Development Goals, the Goal 7 talk about environmental sustainability. It's not different from what we're talking about today, circular economy. The current one we talk about in here, almost 7 out of the 17 goals touches on the environment. So what has changed? My contribution in simple terms is that social dimension sustainability should have a space in our attempt to achieve circularity.
So, please, who is assisting with the movement of the
Okay,
microphone?
thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Dr. Labi, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I I want to speak on the waste separation aspect. Yes. There is a project that we are doing in UESD, and that is also supported by IFES. Yeah, on waste separation. And we are doing it in the second cycle schools and even at our university. And one thing that I have realized is that incentives are very, very important because we came up with an incentivized way of encouraging waste separation. And we have realized that it encourages the students to separate their waste.
Dr. Labi, I think is one of the projects that UESD is very proud to be associated with, waste segregation. And as you mentioned, reinforcement and punishments have been psychological principles that have been used to shape human behavior. So we need to let them go hand in hand. And also we need to start thinking about sustainability of some of these projects beyond the funding period is one of the key things that we need to start thinking about. That it's not that when the funding is over, then waste segregation is over. What are the measures we are putting in place? Yes, so the
Please, I
next
have the
speaker,
microphone.
who has the microphone?
Yes,
I
I have
do.
the microphone.
I'm here.
Okay.
My voice is louder.
Yes,
Yeah,
Madam
okay.
Eunice, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Abuna Sumeni, for the keynote speech. So we have two questions. So one will be asked by me, one will be asked by Rebecca.
That's okay.
So my question is, I want to find out the decent work pillars, particularly on health and safety of the people who are in the value chain for Jospond's circular economy. So I want to find out how they are protected in terms of their health. So the OSHI component of that in Jospond, if she can elaborate that for me. Thank you.
Right. So Becky, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So from Dr. Asumeni's presentation, you could see that the drive for circular economy is driven by the private sector because all her examples were centered on just one group of companies. So as a state, and I don't think we can achieve success if it's only the private sector that seem to be interested. As a state, do we have deliberate policies to achieve the circular economy? We can even use just waste management, just an example. Even if it's segregated,
A lot of the young people are going to be employed. But my question is, what kind of employment are we talking about? Because looking at what we have now, it's mainly young people and women who are collecting these plastic waste. What kind of jobs are they going to be in? Are they going to have that right?
innovation has been injected into the space, because now it's not only illiterates who are in the space. Some of them are forming unions within that space. There's a community, if I remember the name, I'll tell you, but it's featured on the program. How they have created amongst pickers, those who go on the landfills to pick, they've created a constitution, code of conduct. These are people who are, you assume, are sort of uneducated, and maybe the system or the circular economy space is sort of going to harm them. It is such a competitive space that people are rising above the mundane of just going to sit on they are using PPEs, whereby even those who refuse to wear PPEs are not allowed. They are coming, they buy it themselves. But the point is that the basics, because now you're juxtaposing previous to current. And the journey is that at first, even a lot of children, and we still have some of the underage, far underage children on the landfill side. I'm just using landfill as an example. It's a wide value chain, but I'm just using that as an example, where some of them, because now they are even trying to infuse labor laws into their operations. And so some participants in the space are not even allowed to even use their own children to help them, because it's about quantities. You know, the plastics, for instance, it's about quantities. And so there's a movement to change that. There's an awareness. There's motivation to get more people to be employed. The challenge, though, is a lot of the cultural dimensions. We did some research in 3 regions, focused on plastics and waste. And we found out in the Ashanti region area that those who were involved are foreigners. Majority of them are foreigners, because it's even, well, you see, even all, but in we did the Greater Accra, Western region and Ashanti, and was more prominent in that area, focused on circular economy. And we thought that was very innovative. How research featured opting for funding for other things, but particularly for circular economy. Then the other part about, I think, Eunice, your question, the 2 of them, I'll put them in one. I'll respond to one. The problem we have is a systemic problem, and also behavioral change. I know our colleague earlier mentioned that, like, for instance, if they have to be picked up, like some of the plastics or the refuse have to be picked up, when it's segregated, they will come and put them all together. Trust me, training has gone on for even our pickers. But the level that they come in, it's easier for them at the point of work to just put them together. I mean, you won't be there. You can't have. I think we have to work it together. I mean, how are we stealing something that's supposed to help all of us? And so, whilst academia is doing research, government is looking for funding at the household level. We must change our mindset. And I'm happy that your background addresses that one.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Sumening. As you said, the partnership is key, because then we need to address issues at the individual level, the micro level, get to the macro level, where policy, research, and behavioral change can marry. Then we achieve our target. Dr. Abo,
Yeah.
from your table, then we move to Dr. Eshon's table.
Thank you.
Because we have few minutes.
Yes, I just want us to look at the
Okay, thank you very much. Doc, Madam Chief Speaker, a lot of the conversation is on collection, but how about value addition? Is there anything that NGOs like your organization is doing to train people to go beyond just the collection? Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, that table should finish for us quickly.
All right, thank you very much. The keynote speaker did mention that one of the key challenges is capital to move from linear to secular economy. I do perfectly agree. And I also believe that if we are committed as a nation, we can mobilize a resource to go into the secular economy, because just as we all know, governments are able to find money when it comes to campaigning because it is their priority. So if we are able to prioritize our waste management system, if we see it as something that is critical for us, I believe no matter how a challenge it is for us to find the money.
To four, then we move to the back. And ladies and gentlemen, what I want to emphasize is that our keynote speaker will be in our midst for some time. So we can have conversations, questions, or clarifications over the coffee break and everything. So it's important we don't repeat comments or questions that have already been addressed. All right, Dr. Tufo, please go ahead.
Okay, I want to be very brief.
Thank you.
So one, let's also look at the economics of it. I would say that there is no turning back. This secular economy that we are talking about.
benefit right of Virginia often minded about reinventing themselves to get into the life with the new cities. All those, sorry, first of all,
we know how they do it through their adverts, sponsoring movies. So they do a lot of things to get us to change our behavior to suit how they want us to spend our money. And so if we don't invest in research that also finds a position for them in the secular economy, especially to just redesign their current systems without spending too much, we may be losing the fight, or it may take us too long to win the battle. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Final comment from Dr. Danso, I guess. Is it Dr. Danso? Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Please, we will continue with the discussion over the coffee.
Okay, I'll be brief.
Oh, we should go on.
From the keynote speaker to every contributor here, one thing is very clear, and that is waste is money. But how are we going about it? It's like we are moving in circles. So all that I'm saying is that we are talking about education. My colleague raised the issue of the church-based organizations. How about the traditional leaders, the assemblymen? I think that the sensitization education should begin from the grassroots. And with that, it will catch up with the whole, what Dr. Abinasmeni said, there's no news. Kumasi, they've been stealing beans all over. And the behavior, the attitude of the being those Zoom Lion people is also, I think Prof. Amo has said it. I think that we need to also orientate our staff, the staff on that chain, because somebody is paying you to do what you are doing, and you have to dictate to the person. I think it doesn't work out well. So as we are discussing the research, the industry, the funders, and all those things, we need to streamline our activities so that we can achieve the target that we set for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Dr. Inin, kindly ask your question or your contribution, please. Oh. Sorry. I'm sorry. So after Dr. Inin.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just asking the simple question of what relevance is the research that we do? Because for me, this is not the first time you're talking about climate change and all that. Typical example is disposal of waste into water, rainwater, and all that. The education has gone on, sensitization, but it is still ongoing. So I'm asking the question about research, from research to policymakers. What is the role of policymakers? Are there punishments for those who continue to do it? And so on. Thank you very much.
Dr. Inin, as you were asking the question, then something just came to my mind about what the preachers do. You see, the way they continue preaching, hoping that one day, we will transform. The word will transform us and we change. I think that we will keep educating people until we get to a point where we transform our minds to really behave in an environmentally friendly manner that is desirable to all of us. Please, sir, kindly go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks. Business and also individual action has taken in things. Fact. Once you have seen businesses taking, we have not seen state policy and regulation come to support all the issues we talk about in terms of social protection for the workers and all of that. It is the businesses who are driving what happens in their space. We have not seen a strong regulation to say this is how businesses to treat workers who work with them. This is how, if you're going to collect waste, this is how you should segregate, because the businesses are doing very well. And I think that this is an aspect that we all need to pay attention to. And most of the time, when policy lags behind business and other interventions, we don't have a coherent approach to solution-oriented actions. And circular economy is indeed solution-oriented. But if you're not getting the policy to match the effort of business, then we are really going to keep lagging behind. We have not seen our financial mechanism being reoriented to support those who are into the circular economy industry, whether be it waste management or other sectors. The financial institution is not tweaked to support these people. And that's why she said that getting finance to even drive your circular economy business it's actually very challenging. If you want finance to do other things, just buy and sell, it's easy to get those kind of money. So I think we need to look at how policy is really supporting the business and all the initiatives that is being driven by civil society and bilateral agencies.
Society groups are taking steps and they are coordinated by government. There's a platform that most of the stakeholders are on, and we have different groups that are working on different aspects to get policy in place. So the plastic policy, for instance, provides framework for the circular economy. But before we can do the transition, other policies have to come in place, like the financing mechanism. We are currently working on, a stakeholder group. We are working on the PR scheme. Though it's funded by World Bank, it is our local people who are contributing to the discussion to come out with the financing mechanism that will support initiatives in the circular economy. And so the environmental tax that existed, they are looking at how we can re-engineer it so that it can be managed by private government partnership to the implementation of the circular economy interventions we are looking for. So a number of policies are being done. Currently, we are revising the National Environmental Sanitation Policy also by Trend and then other international partners so that it can be aligned with the circular economy framework. So a lot of things are being done, but as you said, it takes time and we will get there. But the conversation should go on and we should all come on board so that we can make it a reality for ourselves. The base is the waste separation. And I wish Zoomlion would champion that. I wish, because on some platforms, they have different positions. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you very
Doctor.
much.
The question is, how do we get HHS involved in the circular economy agenda? Now, she further went on to say that education is key, as Doc indicated. Many have not come to terms with sorting out, reuse, and recycling because of lack of continuous education. Through education, which could be in the form of a national campaign engaging school children and explaining the importance of circular economy to them. Once the children understand, they will serve as change agents in the home. In the broader perspective, intertertiary circular economy challenges can be embarked on either biannually or quarterly. This will help group of students to brainstorm and bring out ideas that help drive the circular economy agenda, and it will help create
And get these segregations at the various locals level being done. I think it will benefit the agenda more because I listened to somebody talking about churches. The churches, yes, there are bylaws that the churches do go by. If you go to the churches and then preach circular economy agenda, yes, the locals are going to buy into it. So I think we should look at how best you can get this local governance-driven agenda in terms of local circular economy agenda that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We come to this table and then we'll let Doc respond to comments because we are time is not our friend at the moment. So we'll allow one question from Dr. Euku's table, and then I think that will be it for this session. Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think I also wanted to talk about the involvement of the MMDs, yeah, MMD, yeah, MMDAs, because when in addition to the education, persuasion, involvement of churches, I think there should be bylaws in place, and there should also be task force that will compel people to comply with, especially to stop the indiscriminate littering of the environment. It will be, me myself personally, I feel very much agree with people when you are working with them. You just throw rubbish on the road, on the street. It's like they don't have any moral. Yes, as if they don't know, they don't have any feeling that it's immoral activity. So when there's bylaw in place, especially in our big cities, to compel people to comply, even with that one too, they will find the waste being useful and stop selling them. Because if you know that you by all means have to put your waste into the bin, you will not sell it, but now the bins are there, they are throwing the
to take a critical look at is the content of our education. What do we tell the people? Because you may even have a message, but how you present this message will go a long extent to determine how the person will take this message and put it into practice. So it's something that we need to keep in mind as we are all advocating for education. What is it we are educating the people about? The concept we are trying to put across, do they understand the concept? So as researchers, we should also be looking at it, and let's be informed by evidence in terms of the needs of the people, information needs, what do they need to know? Prof. Amwa.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's been an insightful session. But then there is something important that there are two things that I want to mention. The first one has to do with who is funding the research in this space. It's been very limited. So we will entreat all stakeholders, those who have the capacity to provide the funding, especially that which has started under Zoomlion, if it is possible for them to upscale it because you realize that it is focuses on an aspect. Those who are examining behavioral aspects do not get some of the funds. Those who are doing the cost benefit analysis do. Rest assured that if you have money to part away with, in terms of bribe, they will let you go. So at the end of the day, we put in the laws and we do nothing about it. So we will also charge the MMDAs to be up and doing. If the laws are there and they've been spelled out clearly, then they should enforce the law to the court. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we want to allow Doc to respond.
Yes.
Snack is ready.
Yes.
And we want to continue the discussion over snack. Eunice, you want to come in?
Just a small thing.
Small something for
Yes,
Madam.
small thing.
Okay,
So
Madam,
that
please, something small for you.
Industry. And it's costly. It's going to take a long time to do it, to get the kind that we want. We've seen samples, yes, we've seen but to bring it to the level where it's at an industry level where people can now, you can say that we are turning waste into fuel. It's going to take a bit of time. So we have that. Then we use regular fuel if it's for operations that she's asking about. We also have solar. We are trying to do, and all of these points are serving as input for us to also upscale. Because if you undertake paralysis research, it's not in the next 1 year or two that you are going to get it in industrial quantities where you can now, try and sell or also government space. So they are careful as to how to even articulate their main challenges. Because maybe a boss is watching who might take you on when you go back to the office. But their function in this circular economy discussion is important. And we can't I'm not surprised that a colleague of ours in a room like this where like great minds are discussing these issues does not even know they are existing. They are very much there. They are being educated in hundreds and hundreds, but their function is not being respected and not being accorded appropriate resources for them to work. The other parts which you talked about, you mentioned briefly, it's that we were talking about it here. Catch them young. What is the educational curriculum saying about these things? We it's funny. I mean, plastics, reuse, circular economy. What does it mean to a 10-year-old whose mother may not be educated? So would go home and say, "Mommy, you need to plastics should be separated like this." It's an election year. I mean, let's be realistic. An election year, if this government manages to secure the funding for circular economy, I think it's the Canadian government. If it gets it, what does it translate into should another government come and it's not the same party? Then there's no continuity. All the research we've conducted, what will it mean? Who is going to take it up? So we have too many things, and sometimes you're asking yourself, where do we start from? But leadership is key in all of this. Leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asumeni. I think one of the questions that I want you to address is the question from the online, the virtual question. Sister Rita, the HHS. I don't know what the HHS means. Oh, maybe SHS.